Farmall 560. Built from 1958 to 1963 by International Harvester, the Farmall 560 marked a turning point for the red tractors many of us grew up with. It kept the straightforward, row crop layout of earlier Farmalls, but added more comfort and hydraulic muscle for long days in the field. IH turned out about 65,982 of them, and by 1963 a new 560 listed around $5,500. A reachable number for family farms at the time. You may remember the widely discussed 1959 update to the final drive. IH addressed it head-on, replacing parts and keeping the model in service for years. That response, and the tractor's day-to-day dependability, helped the 560 earn a lasting place on American farms. In short, it became popular because it was durable, simple to work on, and easy to keep supplied with parts. The 560 offered three sturdy inline-six options, a 4.6L diesel, D282, a 4.3L gasoline, C263, and an LP gas 4.3L. In Nebraska tests, the diesel delivered roughly 59.5 PTO HP, while the gas version reached about 63 PTO HP. That's the sweet spot for plowing, disking, mowing, and general chores without wasting fuel. Standard gearing is 5/4/1 reverse. With torque amplifier, TA, engaged, you effectively get 10/4/2 reverse, letting you drop to a lower half gear on the go when you hit a heavy spot, useful when pulling tillage or climbing a grade. The independent 540 RPM PTO means you can start or stop your implement without clutching the tractor itself. IH's HydroTouch system gives quick, confident lift for modern and vintage implements. Many 560s carried the IH Fast Hitch 2-point. Plenty have been adapted to a drawbar or 3-point over the years, so hooking up is rarely a problem. Gas models are commonly 12-volt. Some diesels use two 6-volt batteries originally, worth checking on any Survivor you're buying. With a 96-inch wheelbase, roughly 141 inches. Long, 85 to 107 inches. Wide, adjustable tread, and about 88 inches. To the steering wheel, the 560 sits planted without feeling clumsy. Operating weight runs about 6,563 pounds, gas, to 6,785 pounds, diesel, with ballast available to push traction near 9,460 pounds when you need it. Strengths, simple mechanics, honest power, stout hydraulics, and excellent parts support. Weaknesses, early final drive reputation, most were updated decades ago, TA units that need testing before purchase, and older 6-volt setups that demand good batteries and clean connections. You'll see 560s from about $1,500 to $14,000 plus, depending on condition, tires, TA health, hydraulics, cosmetics, and extras. When shopping, confirm the final drive update, test the TA under load, check for hydraulic leaks, verify charging voltage, and run the PTO at 540 RPM on a real implement to listen for smooth, even pull. For many of us, the Farmall 560 isn't just iron, it's the steady rhythm of harvests gone by. You can still hear that PTO hum on a cool morning, feel the half-gear drop of the TA when the ground turns heavy, and smell fresh-cut hay in the wind. It deserves its place among the top 5 most reliable tractors, the classic machines that just keep running. Not flashy, not fussy, just a faithful partner that went to work every day and brought us home again. Allis-Chalmers D14. Built from 1957 to 1960 in West Allis, Wisconsin, the Allis-Chalmers D14 sat right in the sweet spot for family farms, enough power for real work, small enough to live in tight barnyards. Production topped 20,000 units, and by 1960 a new D14 listed around $2,900, reachable for a careful farm budget. What made it special was how Allis blended simple engineering with clever ideas, the quick hook snap coupler hitch and the power director hand clutch. For many of us, the D14 was the dependable yard horse that started every morning and asked for little in return. A smooth 149 SID is almost equal to 2.4 L, 4-cylinder turns about 1,650 RPM. Making roughly 34 PTO HP and 31 drawbar HP. In the field, that means 3 14-inch bottoms in decent soil, a square baler without fuss, and a rotary mower that hums along all afternoon. Early D14s used a 4-speed gearbox. Most buyers picked power director, giving 8 forward/2 reverse with a left-hand lever that splits each gear high/low on the move. It also gives live control of the driveline for close-up work, very helpful when the windrow thickens or the heel turns stiff. The 540 RPM PTO is sturdy, and the power director lets you manage load changes without riding the foot clutch. The snap coupler hitch, with its bell under the rear housing, makes hookups quick and secure when everything is adjusted correctly. Pair it with traction booster, a clever draft sensing system, and you'll feel the tractor transfer weight to the rear wheels as the plow bites, keeping depth steady and tires hooked up. Many tractors have one or more remote valves for cylinders. Electrically, the D14 left the factory 6-volt, positive ground. Plenty have been converted to 12-volt. Either way works if cables are heavy and grounds are bright. With an 85.75 in wheelbase, about 129 in long, and operating weight near 3,500 pounds, ballast to 7,000 lb when needed, the D14 is sure-footed yet nimble around buildings and tree lines. A 14-gal fuel tank means long, quiet hours between fill-ups. Strengths: compact footprint, honest pull for its size, easy service points, power director flexibility, and broad parts support. Snap coupler makes implement changes fast. Weaknesses: PTO is not independent, it's live through the hand clutch, which takes a little practice. Original 6-volt charging needs clean connections. Snap coupler safety depends on a sound latch and springs. Expect working D14s from about $1,500 to $5,500, with sharp restorations higher. When shopping, shift power director under load. It should snap cleanly in high and low without slip. Run the PTO at 540 RPM on a real implement, check for hydraulic leaks, verify traction booster response, and inspect the snap coupler bell and latch. On 6-volt systems, use big cables and spotless grounds. On 12-volt conversions, make sure the wiring is tidy and the alternator mounted correctly. If you spent summers on hay wagons, you know the feel, the D14 easing into low with a flick of the hand lever, belt whirring steady, and that orange hood warm in the afternoon sun. It earns its place among the top 5 most reliable tractors, the classic machines that still run. Not flashy, never fussy, just a faithful partner that shows up, takes hold, and gets you home before the porch light comes on. John Deere 3020. Built from 1964 to 1972, the John Deere 3020 sat right in the heart of Deere's new generation, modern ergonomics without losing mechanical honesty. In 1969 it received the well-known side console update that moved the hydraulic levers to the operator's right and enlarged the spark ignition engine, a refinement many owners still prefer today. Factory production was centered in Waterloo, Iowa, with additional assembly in Mexico, and by 1972 the list price was about $10,000. Those details help explain why the 3020 became a staple on American row crop farms. It was new enough to be comfortable, yet simple enough to keep working for decades. Deere offered 3 inline-4 choices: gasoline 3.7L, LP gas 3.7L, and a diesel 4.4L. In Nebraska tests, typical output clustered around the mid-60s PTO horsepower, with drawbar in the low 60s on proven diesel/synchro setups. In practice, that's the sweet spot for plowing, disking, and heavy mowing without wasting fuel. 2 durable gearboxes defined the model: synchro range, 8F/2R, crisp shifts in working ranges, and power shift, 8F/4R, for clutch-free changes. An independent PTO gives you 540/1000 RPM capability, so you can start or stop an implement without touching the tractor driveline. Deere's closed-center hydraulics were a standout of the era: strong flow and quick response for loaders, cylinders, and 3-point work. Factory standby pressure runs about 250 psi, ample for most vintage implements. Many tractors carry multiple SCVs and a Category 2 3-point, making hookups straightforward. Early diesels often used a 24-volt cranking system. Many have since been converted cleanly to 12-volt alternators, worth confirming on any purchase. With a 90-inch wheelbase, about 138.5 inches. Length, 89.6 inches. Width and operating weight roughly 7,700 to 7,900 pounds, ballasted near 9,600 pounds. The 3020 plants itself well without feeling clumsy in tight headlands. Fuel capacity is about 29 gallons, good for long field days. Strengths: rock-solid hydraulics, flexible gearing, easy parts support, and comfortable controls, especially the side console gears. Weaknesses: early 24-volt systems demand tidy wiring and good batteries. Closed-center hydraulics need correct valves and clean oil to stay cool and happy. Today's prices and care tips. In today's market, you'll see a wide spread, from working survivors in the low thousands to well-kept side console diesels in the mid-teens, depending on tires, paint, transmission, and hydraulic condition. When shopping, verify hydraulic standby pressure, test PTO at both 540/1000, try every gear shift, especially power shift feel, and check whether a 24V system remains or has been properly converted. For many of us, the 3020 is the sound of a steady day's work, loader rattling, PTO humming, and that confident feel as the synchro slips into the next range. It earns its place among the top 5 most reliable tractors, the classic machines that still run. Not flashy, not fussy, just a faithful partner that shows up, year after year. Massey-Harris 44. Built from 1947 to 1953 in Racine, Wisconsin, the Massey-Harris 44 became one of the best-known post-war row crop/standard tractors. Total production reached roughly 84,000 units, with gasoline, diesel, kerosene/tractor fuel, and LP gas versions, plus the later 44 special update. Period list prices varied by fuel and equipment, but sat in the few $1,000 range, attainable for family farms moving from horses to mechanization. Why did it spread so widely? The 44 delivered honest, usable power without complexity, easy to service, rugged driveline, and parts that are still findable today. It wasn't flashy, it was the kind of tractor that simply went to work every morning. Most 44s carried the Continental 4.3L, 260 SID, Gas 4, with diesel and LP options available. Nebraska figures put many versions around 40 drawbar HP and 45 belt/PTO HP. In the field, that translates to 3 or 4 14-inch bottoms in average soils, steady baler duty, and mower/conditioner work without drama. The long-stroke torque makes low RPM pulling smooth and forgiving. A 5 forward/1 reverse unsynchronized gearbox is simple and tough. Row crop models typically used a transmission-driven PTO. Many standard models offered independent PTO, IPTO, a real advantage for threshers, balers, and forage equipment, since you can start/stop the implement without clutching the tractor. Massey's hitch-all/hydraulic system was straightforward and reliable for its day, with remote outlets often fitted for cylinders. It won't match modern flow numbers, but it lifts implements promptly and holds them steady if the oil is clean and linkages are adjusted. Electrical systems were commonly 6-volt, positive ground on many, while certain diesel setups used two 6-volt batteries, all of which respond well to heavy cables and bright grounds. The row crop version rides a wheelbase around 87.75 in and weighs roughly 4,165 to 4,250 pounds bare. The standard sits shorter and heavier, often 400-600 pound. That footprint makes the 44 stable on the drawbar yet still nimble around headlands, with adjustable tread and front-end choices to match row spacing. Strengths: simple, durable construction, broad parts support, strong low RPM torque, IPTO available on many standards, approachable maintenance for home shops. Weaknesses: non-live PTO on many row crops demands planning, manual steering can feel heavy with loaders, hydraulic flow is period correct, so clean oil and careful adjustments matter. Check brakes and axle seals on older survivors. Working 44s commonly trade in the $5,000 to $7,000 range, with projects lower and sharp restorations higher. When shopping, verify which PTO you have, transmission-driven versus IPTO. Run the PTO at 540 RPM under load, and check hydraulic lift/hold. Drive it hot in third gear to listen for bearing or gear noise, watch oil pressure and coolant temps, and inspect steering play. On 6-volt systems, use heavy gauge cables. On any conversion, confirm tidy wiring and a healthy charging system. If you spent summers stacking hay, you know the sound, a steady 4-cylinder beat, the PTO humming along, and the Massey settling into the furrow like it's done it 1,000 times, because it has. The Massey-Harris 44 earns its place among the top 5 most reliable tractors, the classic machines that still run. Not extravagant, never fussy, just a trustworthy partner that shows up, gets it done, and carries our memories home with the dust of the field. Ford 9N. Introduced in 1939 and built through 1942, the Ford 9N was born from the Henry Ford-Harry Ferguson partnership and the new Ferguson system. It put true 3-point hitch control into everyday farm work, and it did so at a price many families could reach, about $585 at launch. Roughly 99,000 were produced before the wartime 2N took over. What made the 9N special wasn't brute force, it was safety, control, and affordability. Implements finally acted like part of the tractor, not a trailer fighting you down the hill. That's why the 9N spread so quickly across American farms large and small. A simple 119.7 CI flathead 4, almost equals 2.0 L, turns about 2,000 RPM. Nebraska figures put it near 16 drawbar HP and 24 belt HP, honest numbers that pull two 14-inch bottoms in decent soil and run a mower or rake all day without drama. The gearbox is 3 forward/1 reverse, tough and straightforward. The PTO is transmission-driven, not live. When you push the clutch, the PTO stops. That simplicity keeps repairs cheap, but it also means you plan your cuts and turns. If you run a rotary cutter, an overrunning clutch is a smart safety add-on. The heart of the 9N is the Ferguson 3-point with draft control, the reason this tractor changed farming. Lift is smooth and predictable, but the pump is not live, it depends on the transmission, so lifting stops when you clutch. Electrically, most 9NS are 6-volt, positive ground. Many have been converted to 12-volt, either way works if the wiring is tidy and grounds are clean. With a 70 inches wheelbase, roughly 115 in long, 64 in wide, and about 52 in tall, the 9N slips around barns and trees with ease. Operating weight runs to 140 to 900 lb, and the 10-gal tank gives a full day of light work. It's nimble, stable, and easy to climb on, important traits as years go by. Strengths: legendary simplicity, abundant parts, tight turning, safe and handy 3-point, gentle on fuel, easy to teach a new, or young, driver. Weaknesses: no live PTO or live hydraulics. The original 1.1/8 PTO often needs an adapter for modern 1.3/8 implements. The 6-volt system demands good cables and clean connections. Today's prices and care tips. Expect project tractors in the $750 to $2,000 range, honest workers from $2,500 to $6,000, and sharp restorations pushing $8,000 to $14,000 plus. When shopping, check compression and oil pressure, listen for hydraulic pump noise and verify the lift holds under load, confirm PTO spline size or presence of an adapter, inspect steering and brakes, and test charging voltage. On 6-volt systems, use heavy gauge cables and bright, clean grounds. On 12-volt conversions, make sure the wiring is done correctly. Grease the front axle pivots and kingpins, keep fresh oil in the lift, and use that overrunning clutch with rotary cutters. For many of us, the 9N is the sound of a steady morning, the soft hum of a flathead 4, the lift easing an implement into the soil, the smell of fresh cut hay. It earns its place among the top 5 most reliable tractors, the classic machines that still run. Not the biggest, not the loudest, just a faithful partner that shows up, gets the job done, and brings you home in time to turn on the porch light. Today we tipped our caps to 5 classics that just keep going: Farmall 560, Allis-Chalmers D14, Massey-Harris 44, Ford 9N, and John Deere 3020. Different colors, same promise: they start, they work, and they bring us home. If one of these helped raise your family, I'd love to hear it. Tell us the year, the job it did, and one lesson it taught you. Your stories keep this history alive. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and share with a friend who still has grease under their nails. Thanks for spending a little time with me. We'll see you down the road.